Have you ever felt like the world only remembers you when it needs something? Have you noticed how easily you say yes, even when your body is begging you to rest? If that feels familiar, this story might help you understand why. There was a woman named Grace who worked at a small bookshop. She was dependable. If a coworker needed to leave early, Grace stayed. If a friend needed a ride, Grace drove. If her sister needed help, Grace canceled her plans. She told herself it was just who she was, a good person. But somewhere along the way, Grace stopped showing up for herself. Her hobbies disappeared. And at night, she felt this strange emptiness. She was tired, not the kind of tired sleep fixes, the other kind. Grace never said no, because saying no felt selfish. Her manager asked if she could cover an extra shift. Grace said yes, even though it was her only day off in 12 days. A friend called upset. Grace listened for 2 hours, even though she hadn't eaten. Her mother asked her to organize a family gathering. Grace planned everything. No one offered to help. When it was over, her mother said, "You're such a blessing, Grace. I don't know what we'd do without you." Grace smiled, but inside a quiet voice whispered, "What about me?" She ignored it. Good people don't think like that. One evening, Grace's neighbor, Mrs. Linden, brought soup. She didn't need anything. She just wanted to sit. After a while, she said, "You're always running, dear. But when I see you come home at night, you look like you're carrying the weight of 10 lives." Grace laughed it off. "I'm fine." Mrs. Linden didn't laugh. Being good doesn't mean being available. Even the sun sets, Grace. It has to. That night, those words played over and over in her mind. A few weeks later, Grace got sick. She texted her manager. Her manager said it was fine, but mentioned they were short-staffed. Grace went in anyway. By the afternoon, she could barely stand. But she smiled at customers and told everyone she was okay. When she got home, she sat on the floor and stared at the wall. She felt like a cup poured out so many times there was nothing left. For the first time, Grace asked herself, if I disappeared tomorrow, would anyone notice? Or would they just miss what I do for them? The silence was the heaviest thing she'd ever felt. The next morning, Grace went to the park. She sat by a fountain and watched the water flow. It filled the basin, spilled over the edges, fed the plants. It was generous, but it was also contained. It didn't try to water the entire park. Grace had been pouring herself out everywhere, believing that's what goodness required. But she'd forgotten something essential. You can't pour from an empty vessel. She thought about Mrs. Linden's words. Even the sun sets. It gives light and life, but it also withdraws. It rests. It protects its energy so it can rise again. Maybe that's not selfish. Maybe that's survival. The following week, a friend asked Grace to help her move. Normally, Grace would have said yes immediately, but this time she paused. She'd worked 6 days straight. She had errands she'd been putting off, and she just wanted one Saturday to herself. So she said, I can't this weekend, but I hope the move goes well. Silence. Then, I thought you'd help. Grace's chest tightened, but she didn't take it back. When she hung up, she felt terrible, but also something small and unfamiliar, relief. Over the next few weeks, Grace started saying no more often, just to protect herself. It was hard. Some people didn't understand. Grace felt guilty, but slowly something shifted. She cooked real meals. She read before bed. She tried pottery. And one Sunday, she woke without an alarm and wasn't exhausted. She also noticed something. The people who truly cared didn't pull away. They adjusted. And the ones who did pull away, they'd only loved what she could do for them. Months passed. Grace still helped people, but from choice, not obligation. When she had energy, not when she was empty. And something surprising happened. People respected her more. Her manager stopped assuming she'd always say yes. Her friends checked in on her. Her mother said, You seem lighter, Grace." Grace smiled, because it was true. She wasn't doing less, just differently, with boundaries, with intention. For the first time in years, Grace belonged to herself again. One evening, Grace saw Mrs. Linden again. The older woman smiled. "You look different, dear." Grace nodded. "I remembered what you said." "And what did you learn?" Grace thought, then said, "That being good doesn't mean being available. It means being whole. And you can't be whole if you're scattered across everyone else's life." Mrs. Linden squeezed her hand. "The people who love you will understand. And the ones who don't, they were never yours to carry." So I want to ask you something. Are you living like Grace did? Saying yes when your body is screaming no? Showing up for everyone except yourself? If you are, I need you to hear this. You're not selfish for protecting your peace. You're not cruel for setting boundaries. You're not less good because you've learned to say no. You're just finally being good to yourself. And that's not something to feel guilty about. That's something to be proud of. If this story helped you see something you needed to see, I'd be honored if you subscribed. This channel exists to remind you that growth doesn't have to be loud. Sometimes, it's just learning to rest, to protect your energy, to stop being everywhere, so you can finally be somewhere that matters. Thank you for listening.